Hey guys, this is Bill from Linden, Tennessee. So, it's been a few weeks since I've done a video, and things have changed. And I don't just mean that I shaved my beard. Thank you for noticing. My face is cold now. So, I think last time we talked, I had this thing running, and over the Labor Day weekend, I actually drove it around the yard. Yeah, that's what the last video was. Yeah. So there was a few things I needed to mess with, and I did. I can't remember what the things were. Oh yeah, there were some motor parameters that I needed to adjust, and anyway, I finally got Brian over at Andromeda and Chris Hazel at Zero EV. They all helped me get the and Colin Kidder helped me get my EVIC display working, and I finally did get the RPMs to display, so that was cool. And I wanted to try and adjust the calibration of the RPMs, or see if I could adjust the calibration of the RPM. And so I had my, I had the drive unit on, and I was turning about 500 RPM, so there was a light load on the drive unit, and I went into the motor parameters and adjusted what I thought or hoped or was the calibration parameter, and I clicked save, and apparently that's a really bad idea, because well, I don't really know what happened, but I do know is that my BMS flashed a warning on the EVIC display, and then and I heard some sizzling from behind the driver's seat, and looked behind me, and the fuse, the main fuse was smoking. So I reached up and I turned the key off, and that did not change anything other than turn the EVIC display off. The fuse kept smoking, and before I knew it, it had blown up. And I mean, when I say blow up, I mean it blew up, and it blew up loud. So here's what a blown up Faraz Shamut fuse looks like. So this was sitting in the Jeep roughly like that. So it blew out down here on the bottom with a big flame came out of this thing, and this whole thing actually caught on fire a little bit, which is not something you want to see. Have a little fire happening right next to your Tesla battery modules, but I was able to just kind of blow it out, and that's all that was. So what had happened, I guess whenever you reset the parameters and save it, it turns the IGBTs on and off, or something, or turns something on and off, I don't know, and it causes a giant surge of power to come through, and that little dude right there popped. So this third or first or second phase, it just shorted. So between these two contacts is no ohms at all, and that's what caused it. And it also caused my positive contactor to weld shut, so when I turned the key off, it didn't have any effect. So that's kind of sucks. So yeah, it's just a big old bummer all the way around. My original idea was that I was going to try and source another inverter. One of the guys I talked with, he did a Dodge Satellite. He put a complete Tesla drive unit in the back of it. His name is Kevin. He had a similar thing happen to him, and he just swapped the inverter out for a new one. I think he went with a different control board too. He's not using the Stealth EV control board anymore, but he just swapped the inverter out and kept his drive unit in there. But my wife, bless her heart, brought up a really good idea. She's like, why don't you just get an entire drive unit? And since this old drive unit was noisy, and there was something that was never quite right with the gears, just get another drive unit and swap the gears into that. Swap the 4.5 to 1 gear reduction into that, and perhaps it will be quieter. And I thought that's a pretty good idea. So I called Chris over sent a message to Chris over at Zero EV and asked him about that. And he's like, yeah, that's probably a better way of doing it, because something that can happen is there's these little rubber gaskets back behind here. And if you happen to not get the inverter on right, they can leak. coolant. And if it leaks coolant, then obviously it leaks coolant inside of this sealed unit, and that's clearly no good. Now, I don't know that that's a huge concern, because when I was at EVTV and we did the Doka, we did the yellow Doka, that's exactly what we did. The drive unit itself, the gear casing was cracked on one drive unit, and the inverter on another drive unit had been in a flood, so it was ruined. So we just took the good drive unit, the good gearbox from that one, and the good inverter from that. And that's what was actually in the Doka, if you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go Google Smoka Doka. Smoka Doka, S-M-O-K-A, Doka, D-O-K-A. And you'll see a picture of a good-looking dude back in a big yellow truck out of a garage. And it's a pretty cool video. The good-looking dude, by the way, is me. It's not like I think dudes are good-looking. I digress. So anyway, I went over to my friends at EVTV, and they just happened to have an entire performance Tesla drive unit with subframe and discs and half shafts and everything. And I told him that all I want is the drive unit, and he says that all I want is to get rid of this entire subframe drive unit thing. So he wouldn't let me just have the part that I want. He made me take the whole thing. And I said, all right. So I took the whole thing. Last night I got it out. And there it sits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Stealth EV control board, wherever it's at. Where's that? The Stealth EV control board right there. I'll take that control board off of this one, put it onto the new one over here, and then split the cases of the old one, take the 4.5 gears out of it, split the cases of the new one, take the original Tesla 9.38 gears out of it, swap all that over. Hopefully that's as easy said as it is to do, or something like that. And and put it back together, and hopefully it turns freely and quietly, and I hope. There's a lot of hope going on here. There's a few things I'm going to need to do to get this to fit. There's a little bung right there. Apparently this is the same gearbox that the RAV4 EV used back in the good old days, and they would have had this drilled and tapped for some reason, and they just kept it in the casing, in the casting. So there it is. But to get it in the Jeep, I got to grind that sucker off so it'll fit. And there's some other stuff too, like when I made my mounts, whenever I welded them, they sort of shrunk in on me, so I got to take a little angle grinder to these and make them a little bit smaller. But otherwise, I think that's what I'm going to do, and that should get me where I need to be. And yeah, so I also got to go in there and at a minimum replace the positive contactor. That's the one that's on the farthest part of that junction box, and the negative contactor is the one nearest to us. I optionally to change that out. I haven't decided if I'm going to or not, but yeah. And I've also been working on, let's go around this side, it's a better view. I've also been working on the stereo. So I got the stereo installed and got my wires run, and I was going to make custom kick panels for the front speakers, but I decided I don't want to do that. So I got some of these cool little dudes and made some little brackets so that they fit. So that's pretty neat. So those all sound good. Now if you're an audio kind of guy, the imaging on these is horrible. It's basically shooting at your hip. You want it sort of shooting at your face, or at least your ears. But you know, that's what we got. So that's what we got. If it turns out they sound horrible, I can always go back and make some custom kick panels down here. Yeah, so replace those. And then I've also been working on the stereo itself. I ran a wire from the positive of the 12 volt underneath the thing and put a little bulkhead connector. So that's my positive, and that'll go into that dude back here. And then from there, it'll go into the back of this guy here through these 250 amp fuses, and then out some slightly smaller cables to my two amplifiers. And then the amplifiers will mount on the front of here. There'll be that piano hinge will be across the top of there. This will be my sort of truck bed, if you will. And it'll have a hinge so I can undo a couple bolts on the back of that plywood there, and it'll all tilt forward. So if I need to get at the batteries back there, then I can. And I also made me a subwoofer box. Yeah, so this is up on its side, of course, but this will be down firing subwoofer, and I'm gonna end up painting this with truck bed liner just to keep it waterproof. I got a carpet kit. I've actually gone through, this is my third carpet kit. I just had really bad luck with carpet kits. They come out really, really thin and have holes in them. They're just made poorly. That was the first one, and the second one, it was kind of thin too, but whenever they pressed it to form, whenever you buy these carpet kits, they say that it's a good form fit to the original. I don't know how it is for these guys. They just take like a big iron and just sort of smoosh a flat piece of carpet into the shape that it's supposed to be, but there's no way for the fabric to either shrink or stretch to, you know, form the contour. So it just ends up with a whole bunch of wrinkles everywhere. It was terrible. So I sent it back. Sent them both back. Now I've got another one that I think is a whole much better. And whenever I get it installed, we'll do another video and show you. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Yeah. So yeah, I can't think of anything else. So hopefully today I'll get those boards swapped out on these drive units, and I'm gonna run some and I'll get that new contactor, and then I'll run some sort of smallish battery cables from the Jeep down to here, and then just sort of bolt them to the cables right there. And I made an extension cable. I made an extension harness for the data, the port, the amp seal. Right there. I made an extension harness, so it'll just go from this and connect into the Jeep. And I will test run this just to make sure it works. Hope it works. Should work. Might work. And then if it does, then I'll go ahead and take it apart and get the gears out and all that stuff. So that's going to be my Sunday. Tuesday, I actually have to go to surgery on my elbow, my right elbow. The bicep has sort of pulled itself, the tendons pulled itself off the bone. So that kind of sucks, but you know, when you're jacked like me, that's you know, that's the thing that can happen. Right. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for watching. And I will see you guys next time.